Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Very good. Well, I'm just going to wait for the few people to see. So today is a very special day. It was the last day of our TSS speakers course, right? Is that how you call it? Workshop. So it was very, very nice. We had a wonderful morning here with all the speakers. And we're getting ready to become better and better for everybody, especially for us, starting with us. So today we are still in the month of the book Divine Justice. And today we're going to have Catarina, who will be talking to us about our own heaven and hell, because we do have it. And I'm going to ask Tiago to do the initial reading and the prayer, and then followed by Catarina. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Today the reading comes from the book Happy Life, written by Joana de Angelis through the mediumship of Divaldo Franco. Examine your conscience whenever possible and as often as possible. Many complaints would disappear if the complainer analyzed his own behavior better. We always see the problem in the other person and the error stamped on the other person's face. Normally, when someone creates problems and obstacles, he is reacting to your conduct, to the way you express yourself or the way you act. Have the courage to examine yourself more severely, recalling attitudes and words. As you discover errors, hurry to correct them. Find the person that you hurt and make it up to him. Do not persevere in your mistake, whatever the justification. In this moment, we would like to take a minute and clear our minds from all the turbulence outside. Feel ourselves present here in the Spiritist house. And elevate our thoughts and our hearts to our Master Jesus and to the source of life, light, and goodness. And we'd like to pray in gratitude for the opportunity to be here in this very day, surrounded by those very people, incarnate and discarnate. For here we are to learn and to share. We like to thank Jesus for the chance that He has given us, and also for the help and inspiration that comes from Most High through His messengers, mentors, and guides that follow us in our journey. We'd like to thank all the protection that we receive in every moment, and also here and now. And also thank the presence of other spirits from the spiritual world that also join us to learn. We would like to ask for the protection and inspiration for our sister Catarina, so she may be an instrument and another living letter of Jesus to enlighten and to help us to acquire more knowledge for our lives. Thank you, and let's be with Jesus today and always. So be it. Catarina.
Thank you, Tiago. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It was very very right message. And he just gave a summary of what I'm going to be talking today. But I'm going to take 45 minutes. Our Own Heaven and Hell, based on the book from Allan Kardec, Heaven and Hell. I'd like to start the presentation today by asking, where are we going to after death? Death is a subject that most of us avoid to talk about. Since we're little, at least from what I remember, children do not participate in such a subject. Even adults, when they talk about, they don't spend much time on it. I remember when my grandma passed, no one wanted to talk about it in front of me. I never went to the funeral. I had never been on a funeral before. Only later I found out what it was about, and I missed my grandma's. Somehow we avoid, since we're very little, and we grow up with that feeling of not getting into it, not talking about it. And that adds up to a problem when we find ourselves here now, most of us, grown-ups, without thinking about the future. Some of us, like we here, we believe there is something else. But if you're from little to grown up and you never talk about it, you have no faith or belief, you may think there is no life after this. And that's where the problem begins, where most of people only think about the now. They live not thinking about a future after life. And the result is all we can see around. No one would care less about taking care of other people. Why to be good to someone? Why to do good, first of all? Why bother? Why try to help others? If after this life it's done and nothing else is gonna happen to us. So if you look around, you see lots of problems that come from this fertilizer thinking. I have nothing to do. How many times you heard, let's live life. You only have one. Let's go crazy, right? And then we take a little while to realize it's not just like that. So those are some of the questions. Is there life after death? What are we going to become? Is it going to be a better life? What are we doing? What are we going to deal with in this transition? And that's where knowledge is so fundamental for us. That's why we're all here coming every Sunday to learn. We know there are lots to be taught, lots to be learned. And that's what the book Heaven and Hell is all about. It's an amazing book that gives us a whole picture of what is life and why we're here in so many different paths, in so many situations. Everything has a reason, and this book is all about it. It's a great open mind. We're just talking about doing this presentation, just remind me how great this book is, how much it brings as a knowledge to us. And we need knowledge to understand it, to actually have a better life now. And those books, not just this one, but so many books we have back in the library, they give us so much of knowledge that will help us just to have a better living now. Another question that we may have is there a place for people to suffer? In other words, is there a place called hell? And looking at this picture of a galaxy, and we have millions and millions of those same galaxies over there. It's like the universe is infinite. Would hell be in the center of our little planet somewhere around there and Earth? That's how people still think. So there is no such a place. It will be too much for us to think, first of all, that we are the only intelligent living in the whole situation of the universe. It's a really, I love sometimes stopping to think about that scale, to see how little we are. I think sometimes we're like little cells. In our body, each one of us is one universe. That's how little we are. So no, hell is not in the center of earth. And there is no such a place as a specific place for hell, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because the truth is, all suffering we go through are only consequences of our own actions. We try to avoid, we try not to think much about it, especially if you don't think there is a life after this, if there are no consequences. But the truth is, they're just ahead of us. And it can be as close as tomorrow. It can be as close as when we discarnate. Or it can be as close as the next life. I have a friend, he smokes like crazy, drinks like crazy, and every time he goes to a electrocardiogram or something like that, he gets great results. And he's so proud about it. And I'm like, great. Wait until you incarnate again. The great body you have right now will be much different. But he has no beliefs, right? He's living the only life he has. But the truth is that it's all consequences. In the chapter 7 of that book, there is something like a afterlife penal code. It's like the law book for afterlife penalties. It's great. And I just put a few points here. It's a book that you can't just talk in one presentation. It's a lifetime book that you have to keep on reading and studying. But the book in that specific chapter says, if we find ourselves in a very suffering moment, in hell, as we call, there are a few stages we have to go through. And it explains, and I will summarize, I'm summarizing here in this slide. First, we have the deep regret, and we talked about it today. The speaker courses was all bringing back everything I have to talk today. So first you have to deep regret. Sometimes we do so many mistakes, we don't even realize. We don't even regret because we don't even know it's there. So after we do some damage, that's the first step we have to achieve, the deep regret. The second one is the atonement. And atonement is just leaving some physical or moral consequences of what you did. So you did something really bad, you feel so bad you did that, and then you realize you say, you know what? I have to do something to repay that. Because our lives is just like a bank account. There's no way you go to the bank, ask your manager for some money, $50,000, spend it in a very bad way, and you, damn it, just waste my money. But I'm not going to do that. I'm smart now. Now I know what to do with the money. You still have the debt. Then you go back to your manager and say, I did something wrong, but I promise I'm not going to do it again, and I'd like some more money, please. He's going to laugh at your face. So the atonement is actually you're going to have the extra job after hours to pay for the money you borrowed and you spent. So that's the atonement. You will go through some extra hours. It's not going to be easy, but you have to pay it back to the bank. And that's how life is. It's the same thing. We have to live through consequences of the action we did, of the damage we did. And this atonement, it can happen, as I said, tomorrow. When we discarnate, we spend some time between incarnating again. And that some time can be much more hell than we're having here. If you think we're having a problem here and we continue doing bad, when we discarnate, that's what the problem is. And again, if you want to know more, lots of books behind that door to give you examples of that. And then the last step is the direct reparation, which is if you do a damage to a specific person and it was such a big damage, somehow you have to do the atonement to that specific person, to do good to someone you harmed. Not always the damage we do need the direct reparation. For example, if I was someone full of pride, I may have harmed someone in particular through my life. It wasn't anyone specific. It's just something I know I have to change in myself. So in my next life, we're gonna plan a life story where I can learn to be more humble. Or if, for example, I spent my whole life lazy, just getting money from my mom, my dad, if I had the chance to. Everybody who wouldn't do that. Again, live the life, parties, travel, never work. When you go to the other side, you realize, damn it, what a waste. And then what do? You come back and have a life where you have no money and you have to work a lot. So this atonement didn't really go through the direct reparation. So that's the afterlife panel quote that is on a book, and it's really interesting. It has a much more details, but basically, I could stop the presentation right here. And that's what amazes me about that book. We live in such an interesting life. If you look around, you see situations where we can look at some family organizations and we can see clearly the direct reparation. You see that marriage or that mom and daughter that is a hassle to live through. How can I know a friend? Her mom and herself, they don't get along at all. For some of us, most of us, it's really difficult to understand that feeling. Where does that come from? From the penal code. It's just a situation that comes as a consequence. So, heaven or hell is here. It's now. And it will always be with us. We carry it all the time. It's like the little cloud, the dark cloud we have. You see someone grumpy, such a dark crowd around that person. But that's exactly it. We have our feelings, our emotions, and people can feel it. And the frequency we live that our lives, the energy I'm carrying here, if it's really too bad, it's just gonna affect me. I'm gonna probably just keep on rolling like a snowball, adding more and more and more until we really change. There's no such a thing as luck or bad luck. It's all consequence. It's all around us. It's all within us. We have the power to create our either heaven or hell. It's here. It's with each one of us. We have the power. No one else does. And we'll talk more about that later. Because it's all a matter of a math equation. All we do adds up. No mistakes. You can't fool yourself. You put 2 plus 2, it's going to be 4. That's how we do in life. The effort we put in life is going to be the results we're going to get. If you put apple seeds here, you're going to harvest apple. There's no way it's going to be another fruit. So, what we are now is based on our past experience. Past from this life, from years ago, sometimes we get consequence, or past from past lives. So my question is, what are you today? Which brings me to the next slide. What do you bring to the table right now? If you were to die tomorrow, what are you going to be bringing? Because nothing will change. The day we discarnate, we're going to be exactly the same. The same feelings I have for Sandra, I'm going to continue carrying it. It's not going to change. Oh, I hate someone, I'm going to kill her. You're going to continue hating. It's going to be a bigger problem. Addictions. You're going to carry that. That's why we know about obsession. If you have your addiction, when you discarnate, you're going to go for those people that have the same one as you and live from it and suck that energy that's going through that situation. So what you're now, you're going to be carrying to your next life. How much of positivism you have. How positive you are. The dark cloud. How is your cloud right now? Right? Sometimes we think so much about the future and the answer is right here, right now. It's now. If you want to do a palm reading, sit and talk. Sandra will tell your future. She's a great psychologist. We are responsible for our own hell. I love that picture. I'm sure most of us have seen that. Right? And in my humble opinion, that's the most difficult concept to grasp. And again, we talk about that today. The reading message. No matter how much we study, no matter how much we come here, to church, wherever we go, talk about God, any religion you have. That's the most difficult concept to accept. That all the problems we have, at least half of them, we're trying to blame some other people. And I'm talking about anything. More difficult than it can be. Sometimes we see a family that lose a young kid, a teenager. And you see the mom is such a great person, the father, what happened? It's not that we should say they deserved it, but there is a reason that we're not able to understand. It's up to them to study their logistic and their family and friends around, co-workers. It's up to us. So to me, that's one of the most difficult concepts to actually observe and live by it. Because we're always blaming people, no matter what, for everything that happens around us. And I like to bring attention that we live in a, again, those books can explain that, but we live in a level 2 out of 5 develop for our planet Earth. We're talking about transition today. We know that the planet is evolving to become better, like everybody else here. That's our job, that's our task. So think 2 out of 5. Level 2, it's more bad than good. And again, if we believe their lives outside, why would you be in level 2 still? It's like a kid in school, whoever has kids. You cannot jump into university. You have to go to elementary school. It's not easy, hard work, learning to speak, to walk, to ride a bike, until we can move on. So we're all in the planet number 2 level of schooling, because that's where we fit. That's what we know. And again, here we have more negative than positive. Eventually, it's going to even up. And it's up to us to work together to level up the planet a little bit. Life is like university. If you have to pass, you have to take exams. So sometimes if something is happening to you, it's either as a consequence or it's just part of the process. We're here because we know we're going to have to deal with all the troubles that level 2 planet brings to us. But we need that to go to level 3 because we can't jump. We have to live that experience. So my message is, whatever you are right now, it's as perfect for you. Whatever you have, whatever problems you have, it's the school level you need. And you have to hurry to master it. So we can go and move on to some other challenges But at least you've passed whatever you're living now. Because every challenge we have right now, no matter what, it's perfect for us right now. Another example I can say, when we discarnate, we get up there, there's a whole society taking care of us too. And we're going to get to some reincarnation desk and we're going to talk to someone. And that person's going to open our book, see what happens with us, can be with us. And then you're going to say, I was a terrible influence to so many people. I know, yeah, didn't do good to anyone. No, yeah, oh, next page, please. Ooh, so many bad things and influence. Oops, oh my God. Okay, what can we do for you now, Catarina, after all we did? For example, they can say, okay, since you influence badly so many people, how about you go back and be a teacher on your next life? It's a great way to repair the damage you did, right? How about you work on a Spiritist center? Yeah. Prepare some presentations, learn, talk about it. It's a great way to repair. Or you can say, as I mentioned before, I know I did that to that person, but she was horrible to me. I couldn't stand everything that she did to me. And I couldn't control myself. It's not my fault. And then I did something much worse to her. And then the guy at the reincarnation desk will look at you and say, all right, how about you go? And she's going to be your daughter next time. That's a perfect way for you to learn to love that person. And she will love you back. So that's how life happens when you go after here. It's time to repair. It's hard. But we need to repair and look inside. Look at yourself in the mirror and think, why is that happening? Because we're still like child. Like we say in Brazil, a crab in a can. Right? Complaining. But there is a reason. If you see the bigger picture, the dots all connect. And if you stop being a child, you can look outside and understand better. Oh, okay. So our book of life, we're talking about doing journaling. It's the book of life. We're writing it actually, hands-on. To remind us who we are, what we need to change. Why? What's happening around us? Why is it happening? And then I found this picture that I thought I could share with you. Reincarnated as a goldfish. I must have done something terrible in my previous existence. I must have been a piranha. Right? I think that's the picture. Now he's a little fish afraid of everything. But he has to learn. So next time he won't go around killing everybody he wants to because he's hungry. And the question next is, how long does it last? The length of the penalty is related to our betterment. Which means the time we realize it's going to stop, or its intensity is reduced while we work toward our betterment. When you realize where it comes from and work toward it, things start changing already. So, the first thing you have is to understand where it comes from. When we realize that our suffering is our own problem, that's a great point. Things are going to get better from now on. Faith helps us to go through. as a Spiritist, and I'm glad I found this doctrine to learn, because it makes much easier to deal with everything. So when we start to work on it, let's say I made my plan with the guy outside at the desk who came here, and I knew I was going to incarnate with a lot of problem. We can actually diminish the intensity of those problems. We know we agreed to it. We know we're going to go through. But the mother with the child, let's say, she works hard to, even though she has a difficult kid at home, she can still do good to other people. And she is always doing good. Her life, believe it or not, is better than if she were not helping. So that's basically what it says. Sometimes we still complain, but I still do good to people. How come? So much problems. Trust me, it's better than it would be if you're not helping. Because I feel the difference of trying to do good, how things fall into place sometimes, and my difficulties, and I thank God in the universe for, and I say, I know you're easing up for me a little bit here. But we have to do both ways. At least that's how I feel. And that's what it says in the book too. So its intensity is reduced while we work on it. When you realize where it comes from, things start changing already. So let's start changing. Let's be thankful for everything that's happening now. You want to get a ticket to heaven? That's what I just said. Change. Because changing will make things much easier, light. You'll find people to help you. You're going to clear that dark cloud above you. 'Cause the more dark you get, less people want to talk to you. The happier you are, no matter what problems you have, if you can still show happiness and being a positive person, you will attract people. They will never know the problems they have at home. Maybe if they find out, they will help you. So change. We're talking about today about also inner transformation. That's all we need. Look inside. See what needs to change. We're still very, very young souls. Lots to learn. We need each other's help. And we need to know where we sit right now, where we sit in the universe. In that scale of development, we're very little. We can't just be stubborn and complain. And not be thankful for all the problems. How many kids want to go to school and they can't? And some people are in university, with beautiful scores, graduating. This life is not for free. We cannot take an incarnation for granted. As I said, the whole society that works up there to make each one of us here to incarnate, it's a lot of work. You cannot take that for granted. You have a mentor, spiritual, working for you right now. You pray to God when you need help. Some spirits are going to come to you to help you. We're not giving anything back to them. The only thing we can give back, is ourselves. So let's think next time we have an opportunity in front of us to do good, to improve ourselves. Let's earn it. Let's earn the next step in life. Because we're not here for free. And another really tough thing to do, and that's my next slide, but will help us a lot. going through life. Will help us a lot when we get there to talk to the reincarnation desk. It's here. All the ties we have with people here, it's time to work those connections. Easy up, clear the tension, right? And forgiveness is it's basic. Because if you don't forgive, the minimum thing you're gonna have is a negative thought to someone. So you're connected to it in a bad way already. The next step, you're gonna actually do something for that person. And then further, you can do something really bad to that person. So if you need to forgive, it's because you need to learn to love, and we talked about that. Because we don't know how to love yet. Again, think about ourselves in the whole planet, in the whole universe. We're very little in love too. The level of love we have here can be much bigger. And it was worse before too. So we have to think, where do we find ourselves now? Look at the bigger picture. If you see kids fighting over a pen, they get mad. They get upset at each other. They fight and they cry. That's us fighting over, I don't know, money, a position at work, fighting over a spot in the line to the bank. We still do that. We still do childhoodish little things that are mean nothing. We're talking today about Jesus doesn't even forgive anyone. Because he doesn't get offended by. He's so big. The little things we do is like the little children with fighting over a pen. That's us right now. We think we're grown-ups. We think we know everything. Again, it's time to see the bigger picture. Think about the universe and where you are. Very little. It's not to diminish ourselves. It's to realize the reality. We're there like little kids. So let's do the best we can now. So we don't carry the baggage. Because we're going to come back again. And it's going to be with that person again. And we don't want that. And we don't want to hold on the development, the betterment of the whole planet. We need to work on that. We are wasting too much time already, right? And I listen to the words I'm saying too, because I'm really running behind. But if no one comes here and says anything, if I don't have to do the presentation and remind myself what I have to do, we're not going to get anywhere. Slowly. Gonna have to work on it. As Livia mentioned today, is riding the bike. It takes time and practice. We don't have to punish ourselves for not knowing, for falling off, but we have to do something. And forgiveness is the best thing you can do to yourself, not to the other person. Forgiveness is for you, for ourselves. The time we forgive someone, that little line of cord, it is integrated. If I have an issue with the clay, the moment I say, I drop it. Now he has a dark cloud on him, and I've moved on. It's clear enough. And that's the best gift that we can get. It's the reincarnation. The reincarnation does the learning, because we can't learn in one life. Slowly we're reaching heaven. And that's the beauty. That's actually The slide we talked before, that's where we have the direct reparation opportunity to come back and hold that person we did some damage to come back and learn the lesson we didn't learn before. I should have accomplished certain, right now I have to accomplish some degrees in this life. In this school I'm living here, I know I have to accomplish patience. I have to work on my pride. I know a lot of myself. If I avoid it, that baby's gonna have to work on pride, patience, jealousy, his addictions. That baby has it all already. There's a book empty, only with questions for that baby. And that's reincarnation. That little being that's so cute has a baggage, like we did when we were born. And we are going to be like that again, sometime in the future. And the book that baby has, we should work now to have a better book. So if that was us when we were coming to this planet, the book we had here, it's time to work a better book on that. So next time, it's going to be a much happier baby, a happier kid, that's going to turn into an excellent teenager. That's possible. Right? That's going to graduate, yeah. That's the goal. Teenager with no problems. Right? And it's up to us, and it's up to us right now. That's the time. And that's my last slide. That just summarizes everything. Suffering is connected to our imperfection and happiness. Suffering is connected to our imperfections and happiness to perfection. Our souls carry our own punishment. Therefore, hell is wherever we find people with pain and suffering. In the same way, heaven is everywhere where we find happy people. So let's work on our heaven and hells here, right now. Because we can make this life a heaven too. It's not all about suffering. It's not all about having problems and being miserable because we have to evolve. No. We can evolve with dignity. Even though we're still in level 2, we have more, let's say, of negativity. But we still can connect to the positive that's in here. It's much better than level 1. So let's seek for those positiveness around. Because that's the only way to heaven. I don't know how much, when should I have finished, Clay?
Well, we still have 15 more minutes if you want to use it.
15? Okay. So I'm going to do what I like doing. I'm going to ask Denise to put some music. I'm going to dance. I'm kidding. I'm going to go back to the slide, forgiveness. We're going to do an exercise, and I think that's the perfect place to work on this. A little guided meditation. I've done that before here, but for some of you that haven't, let's work on an issue that you think it's easy, not too complicated. You can do that at home if you feel more comfortable. I'm going to ask our guests online, if there are any, to close their doors, turn off their phones, concentrate, and connect to the energy that's coming here. Tiago, tu pode baixar a luz pouquinho? Por favor. And I'll wait for him to come back. So this exercise you can work when you have some time at home. It's very important, and that's what we should be doing as much as we can. Thank you. So let's close our eyes if they're not closed yet. Elevate our thoughts. Connect to the higher energy that's in this place right now. All the discarnated spirit that came here with us. Let's feel lighter and lighter the more we breathe in. And for our own good, let's imagine a light, like a big bubble around us, a golden light. We're protected, we're safe, we're in harmony. And being in this huge bubble, let's imagine let's bring the image of Christ, Jesus, watching us, giving us support to the exercise we're going to do next. We're going to bring that person that at some point in the past did something that hurt us. Let's look at that person and try to understand where it came from. Think about the reasons that he or she may have had to do what they did. Think about them like little children, like a little child that didn't have much to give, that hurt without a purpose, like fighting over a pen. Let's look at them as a mother or as a father and understand that that's what they have to give. Understand and feel the peace in your heart for doing that. Feel yourself much lighter. Bring a smile to your face. Look at that person in the eye and say, I forgive you. And let's leave the person. Let it go. As you see he or she walking away from you, imagine the sun sending lots of light to that person. Feel yourself more calm, warm, much lighter, with a smile on your face. And slowly you can start to come back. With the feeling of love around us. And I hope it makes sense. I hope you truly feel the forgiveness in your heart with that person. And forgiving can be that simple. Thank you. It can start with our thoughts, like we did right now. It can start without even telling the person you're forgiving them, because you don't need to. You just have to feel it yourself. And that's what I had for you today.
Thank you, Catarina. That was very inspiring.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Lots of food for thought as we're going to be living here today. Take this to your home, inside your heaven, or to your hell. Rescue this beautiful child that is in hell right now, because it's just accepting that we all have those little imperfections that we are going to be able to move out of this that we call hell. So now we're going to be open for questions, for comments to Catarina. Questions?
That's great, thank you. Or comments?
Comments?
I just like to understand that I, in my only beginning of understanding, and walk myself through the process of believing that it's a next life and so on. I'm really in kindergarten. I'm junior kindergarten on that. But and then from all I have been reading and convincing myself that a good way to go for us to set a good ground for us to be moving on and getting better, even in those categories of, as you said, the two, and increasing it, is for us to connect ourselves to the moral values of all the decisions we make. Am I right to think about it? Because sometimes it's like to say, when you talk about conflict in relationship, sometimes I'm kind of getting to that point of where to let it go and where it is my opportunity to grow in it. Because sometimes we stuck to be side by side someone that we do what we think we're doing right to kind of move on. And it is so much struggle in both sides that sometimes you feel like, let it go. And I'm still questioning if you let it go, it is what it is, and just basically work on my forgiveness and have that space, open for us to kind of grow while we are in here, So what do you say in that?
What's your name again?
Cleo.
Cleo, I think you gave a great example of how to deal with it. It's up to us. Sandra can talk about after. You're doing what not a kindergarten kid would do. That's exactly it. You use the morals you have. It's a two-way thing from my perspective. We can have these morals, we can have that moral level. Whatever you are, you have to try to do the best of it. See, your conscience says that's the best you should be doing. Then great, you're doing it. That's amazing. It's also understandable that the level you find yourself right now may not be perfect, and that's why we're here. And that's one thing we mentioned today. The more we learn, the more we study, more responsibilities we have, more difficult it is to deal with the situations we find around us. So for the question you have right now, the moment you find yourself right now, with the level of moral you understand, use the best of it. That's what you should be doing. And continue learning. because maybe the action or reaction you had here is going to be different in the future. But what's important is that you did your best. And that's what we should expect from other people too. Think that they're doing their best. Because the best for you might not be good for the other person, but it's up to them. You should think and use your own judgment and continue learning to every time do a better action when the question comes up to you. That's what I think I have to say.
What I could add to that excellent answer would be that sometimes, you said that sometimes, am I giving up too early?
Yeah.
Because I need to be with that person beside me to go through whatever struggle I have to go and grow from that relationship? Absolutely not. Sometimes we do need to be away from that person to be able to strengthen ourselves, and be able to give them maybe tomorrow a better part of who we are today. And that's what I truly believe, and I think this is what I know that this is what Spiritism believes too. In the gospel it says that we can't be with somebody that with in close relationship with someone that is hurting us all the time, because that we won't have the base for us to grow. And sometimes we let that happen too long, and then it's not about being humble in that moment, but it's being humble towards yourself, because you won't be growing if you're just being crushed all the time. And learn with those crushes, because I think the opportunity is to be able to, okay, what can I do today? Maybe using your silence instead of fighting back, or in creating that distance. You'll be able to help that person, because now you are in a better level of peace of mind to be able to help that person. Sometimes it's not being together with that person that you're going to be able to help, but being away from that person makes the situation better for you to be able even to pray for that person. Because sometimes we are hurting so much that we cannot even pray for the person. So that distance is a very healthy one. And then once we get this strength, maybe we can get together and start all over again. Maybe in this lifetime, maybe in the next one. But giving the best that you can do at that moment is the answer. More questions or more comments?
Anybody online? No?
Just have a comment on something that you mentioned right at the beginning about how we do not talk about death with kids.
What, sorry?
How about we do not talk about death with kids? And you said that you yourself, as a kid, didn't go to funerals and everything. And it's interesting because this week at the house we have an interprofessional rounds talking about if we should bring kids inside of the ICU or not, especially if a mother or their mother or father, someone very close to them, is actually passing away. And they're talking about how it is actually very important to bring the kid in and be straightforward about what's happening and what's gonna happen, and even be careful about the words that we use. So sometimes they do not say words like, "Oh, we lost grandma," because for a 3-year-old, they lost their gloves all the time. I lost my head, so lost. I can find it. It's just a matter of going around and looking for, right? So that's the concept that they have, and they said especially for kids, not talking about you giving them a place to really use their imagination, and we know how much imagination can go really beyond anything. So they can imagine anything just because you didn't talk straight to them what it's about. And I think for us as a spiritist, it goes even to a second level, because we're giving an opportunity right from the beginning to teach them what's death and what's coming after, because a lot of times what comes from those kids 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years is what's after death, right? And we have that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important to pass this to kids. I was lucky, I grew up in a family that culturally, I would go to funerals since I was a baby, and I grew up going to funerals, so to me death was very natural. And I was lucky also at the age of 9 to have my mom studying Spiritism, so after 9 I started to understand what was after. So to me it was an easy thing to deal, but that's not normal. And we are now here in North America, and that's what they're talking about, especially in North America. We have this tendency of keeping away kids, we do not take them to funeral and everything, and how important it is to talk about them. And I think as a Spiritist give us this extra level of starting teaching what comes after and why they have to go and what's after. And of course, if you're talking to a 3-year-old, you're going to use a language for a 3-year-old. If you're talking to a 9-year, you can use a 9-year-old language, and so forth and so on. But it's very important to start to give them those concepts, especially because we just studied this summertime a book called Message from a Teen Spirit, and who discarnated, I think, at age of 14, and we had no clue whatsoever what's gonna happen with him after. So we tend to think that, oh, it's only 3 years old, it's too much, there's like, why I'm gonna explain that to them? Well, we don't know what age our kids are gonna discarnate, right? You can discarnate at 5, 6, 9, 10, 12, 18. So I think it's never too early for us to start to talk to them on their own language about what's coming after, what's like, what's dead.
I'm going to give the word for Thiago, who asked, and then I'll give it to you. I just want to make a comment on your comment, is that yes, definitely talk to your child. The children, they, even if you don't talk, they are going to use their imagination plus their feelings, because even if you don't talk, they are grabbing all the energy, and the energy of sadness, the energy of all this. You can tell them, oh, everything is okay, but you are just sending all that energy through all your pores and your facial expression that you are sad. So what's going to happen to that kid is that they are going to grow confusion inside of them, because my mother, who I really trust, is telling me that everything is okay, but I'm feeling that nothing is okay. So he not only get the trust is putting in now in jeopardy, but also the confusion that is going to be in their little minds, because they don't know what's happening. So talk to them in a way that you can, and I think this is going to be, for me, it's the best way. That's how I raise my children too. Thiago, and then, I'm sorry, your name? Sarah.
Yeah, my question for you, talking about heaven and hell, pain and suffering, your last slide was saying that we see hell wherever we see pain and suffering, and we see heaven wherever we see happiness. So then, what can we take from that, knowing that Jesus said that blessed are those who suffer, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So then, how can we conciliate then pain and hell?
Well, I just say that what the Master wants to say is there is no hell. Hell is our feelings. It's what we go through. We blame. We want a place to go when we discarnate, or even knowing that nothing is done yet. We're gonna go to some sort of a hell with people. Hell is just a nomination that we have. There are no angels and demons. There's no such a thing.
But there is suffering, right? No, my
Suffering there will be for a
is
while,
suffering.
yeah.
And how this suffering then, or the pain, can be instead of a way of that place of, to be a place of where is the pain as a place of happiness then?
I think as that's what was said before, we need that. We need the suffering. Again, we can call it suffering, but it's challenging. I can call it challenging, right? We need a challenge. We go to the gym to sweat, to do the best we can. It's not easy. I don't have fun. Sorry, Adri. I don't have fun. But we need that for our body if you want it to look good. But we need the gym for our actions too. And that's we can call gym, we can call suffering, we can call hell, we can call challenging. We need that. It's all good to us. So if you want to point a place for hell and heaven, you can call the suffering, the hell, the challenging. Until the point that we're going to reach another level where things are going to be much easier. Until the point where we're going to actually learn what love is.
Mm-hmm. If we take the suffering as, instead of using the name suffering, we use the name lesson. Lesson. It's going to lessen our suffering. Because until we get that lesson, we're still going to be in the path of suffering. But it's going to, as you mentioned in your beginning of the lecture, it's going to be with less intensity if we get the lesson. Because if we don't get the lesson, it's going to be coming back to us until we get the lesson. And then it's, like that suffering, it's still necessary because the suffering brings into us. We have to stop. Whenever we suffer, we really do stop. We don't stop when we are having fun. We just let it flow. It's too much good. But when we suffer, this is the time that we really stop, like we give us a break. So this break is a way that God gave us to let us know that we have to think about this. We really have to look into this suffering. So that's the way I see this.
I think really quick, if you see the suffering as a lesson, it takes you to heaven.
Yes.
If you see suffering just as a suffering being punished,
We're going to keep
now
in hell.
Now you're in hell. Now suffering becomes this
Yeah.
hell place.
Exactly.
Decided, yeah.
Sarah.
Just to go back to what she was saying about children, we learned there's a part of child psychology where kids are unable to separate their conscious from reality. So if you tell them at school at a very young age, don't do that, I'll know, they truly believe that you will know. So when you ask them the next day, so what did you do at school? They usually have nothing to say because yesterday you told them that you know what they do.
Exactly.
So they don't, oh, you already know, I have nothing to say that you already don't know. So like, for example, too, when you say that someone's lost, they truly believe they're lost, but I can find them. When a mother steps out of the room, children cry because they believe that she'll never come back. Because to them, they don't know anything behind that door, but that door, a lot of people walk out, and some people don't come back, right?
Very
So,
good.
yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. You should be coming more often. The other thing about death is that usually nobody likes to talk about death to kids because death is about not living anymore, right? And children is the beautiful picture of, real living because they are the beginning. So we don't want to bring death to them because it's almost like bringing their own death to our own children. I don't want to talk about death because death is bad. And as Teresa was saying, death is a natural part of our living experience. And if you are a spiritist, you know that death is part of this incarnation process. It's just your body that lives. Your spirit is immortal. It keeps on going.
Just to add something, when my grandma had passed away, my family had come a couple months from Brazil, and we had our little cousin Julia, who was about 5. And my aunt's spiritualist, so I guess she shares a lot with her about death and being gone in the spiritual world. And I remember her older brother, who was 11, was crying just out of sadness that he missed Grandma. And she looked at him, she goes, Pedro, não chora, she's okay. And just the sincerity, rather than having somebody who's sad themselves, but she understood the concept of it all. And I saw so much better than all of us, but she was so sincere in saying, but she's okay, don't cry. So
Absolutely right. And that's our first, impulse, is to tell the other person, if somebody is sad, you don't want them to be sad, so you want to stop it. You want to say, don't cry. And sometimes, yes,
so
cry.
She was so
I
relaxed
know,
in
that's
her own
beautiful.
sense. That was,
I remember when my father passed away, my son was very close to him. He had just turned 4 years old. And he asked me, and I was Catholic because I became a Spiritist after my dad passed away. So I remember that my son said to me, where is Grandpa? And I was very sad. So I said to him, well, Grandpa went to God, because as Catholic you believe that once you passed away, you are now in heaven, or you are in hell, or you are in the purgatory. So I loved my father so much that I would never give him the place of hell or the purgatory. So I gave him the place of heaven. So I said to Victor, Grandpa is in heaven now. He's close to Jesus. He is okay, as you said. He said, why did Jesus call Grandpa now? He was really mad and he was really upset. I said, well, because they need some photographers in heaven. And your grandpa was so good that God said, no, you come here and you help me. So it saddens me. I'm very emotional every time that I remember of that. So he opened his arms in my bed and he said, God, take me. I'm a very good kid. I want to be close to my grandfather. So, they do take everything that you say literally and as a truth. So we have to be very careful what we say to our children and the way we say it. And do not try to hide your emotions. If you can't talk about your emotions, they don't need to go into details, but you can just say, oh, I'm just sad. Why are you sad? Because they're going to keep asking why. Because, sometimes we get sad.
They may know more than us do. They just came from there.
But
their memory of fresh.
Because sometimes Mommy is sad, and they'll get it. They'll get it, and they will finish there. So thank you so much, and please do this exercise at home, because I know it's not only the person that you took to the journey.
We have a whole list.
We have a whole list in this lifetime, and it was great. Thank you so much.